No, that's a good way. I will repeat that your mom is awesome.
Very
No, it's
cool.
cool.
Yeah, she was texting me clips of you did a competition down in or was it in Orlando?
Was it the Strongman one?
Yeah, yeah.
That was up in Jacksonville. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I went up for that. It was cool. It's so, I mean, it was funny. So I've been the strength coach over at the boathouse for about a year now. And one day I was like, hey guys, I can't do this Sunday. I'm doing a strongman competition in Jacksonville. And everyone's like, pause. What? I didn't give any warning. I fell into it
Yeah.
totally on accident. I trained strongman for like a month and I was like, we're just gonna do this and see what happens.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're new to the sport.
Super new to it. Yeah. A buddy of mine, I knew him for a couple of years when he worked in a nutrition shop. And then he's a big strong man. He's been in the industry forever. His name's Zach Schultz, and he's a great coach. And I knew that, and I knew him from when he worked at a nutrition gym or a nutrition spot. And I knew that he opened a new gym that looked really cool. And I was like, I'm busy. I can't go see this thing. I was like, I cannot go to the gym. I'm not going to check it out. And what he's like, hey, you should come see it, come see it. And then I did, and I like pick up a log. I didn't even know what a log was at the time.
Yeah.
And he's like, that what you just did could probably walk on a novice competition and win. And I was like, all right.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and which is exactly what happened. And then I got stuck, and here now I'm dual for it. But yeah, it was a total accident. Like I don't know how I got here, but I'm not mad about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I saw the clip of you like strict pressing. I think it was an axle press, and you strict press the first rep, and then you're like, oh, maybe I should use some leg drive.
Which is funny because we talked about it before because I really didn't do any kind of strength sports. I talked about it with my
Yeah,
coach and I was like, I got to remember to push press because in order to rep it out. And
yeah.
that weight was light for me. It was 135.
Mhm.
And just because I was in the novice, it was new. And for a lot of those athletes, I'm a true novice to strongman, but I wasn't a novice to picking heavy things up. So I'm
Sure.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
start restricting, and I look at him and I go, whoops. And I heard they called it on the like the speaker. They're like, well, she's
Yeah,
strict pressing. And I go, oh crap, yeah, I am. Like I didn't even realize it until the announcer said
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So yeah, that was my bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Easy nine on that, right? Am I remembering correctly?
Yeah, it would have been 10, but I did a
Wow.
non-rep because I'm still a noob at it. So like one of
Yeah.
them, I didn't wait for the call. And so
Okay. Yeah.
again, and he was like, by the way, you lost one. And I was like,
Oh man.
everyone else's max was 3. I feel good.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, pretty solid
yeah.
lead at that point. One thing that interests me in that competition, you had a Ukrainian deadlift.
Yeah, and I'd never done one before. So even
Wow.
because my gym, it's a
Yeah.
really special apparatus, right? So it's kind of looks
Mhm.
like a T, and so the weight sits really low.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't know I'd be up on 48-inch blocks as well. So
Yeah.
I just kind of walked on out. I trained it by doing sumo, which is as close as you can get to training it. And sumo, in my opinion, it's easier, right? And so I was like, this will probably be fine, but I'd
Mm.
never heard of Ukrainian deadlift.
Yeah.
Just tried it out, but I liked it. It was pretty cool.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was there anything in the show where it was like, oh gosh, this doesn't feel right in my hands just because I haven't practiced it, or was it kind of smooth sailing?
The show was smooth sailing just because again the weights felt pretty good. There
Mhm.
was a moment originally I was going to enter midweight, like true midweight,
Mhm.
which is I think for that comp would have been like 165 or whatever.
Okay.
Um, or no, I lied. I was gonna do like heavy midweight. What maybe so that might have been
Okay.
180. I didn't want
Yeah.
to cut because I was like, first
Mhm.
my one, I've got like a month's notice. I don't
Yeah.
want to cut
Yeah.
for it. But there was no one in that weight class. And there was a woman who was in. They're like, hey, if you want to do this, you can go to the super heavy. Which the woman who had been there, like I looked her up on Instagram. She's a beast. She's a coach.
Yeah.
She would have wiped the floor with me. And I was like, I don't
Yeah.
know if I want my first comp to be like me knowing I'm gonna get crushed.
Totally.
I was like, well,
Totally.
I'm a novice. Let me use my novice card and see how it goes. But I'm like, as a result, I had trained farmers carries at 175 per hand. And so then I get to the comp and it's like 110. So there's a moment where I'm walking with it and I
Oh.
go, oh, I can run. And I just run.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
She
so
just
there's a
shot off.
video of my
Oh.
video guy who's like following, and then you see him just sprint in front of me because
Yeah. To keep
I
up
didn't
with
know I
you.
was going to run either. Um,
Yeah.
So it was kind of the reverse there, but no, the weirdest one was the Ukrainian because everything else I was
Yeah.
fairly able to train.
Okay.
Ukrainian was just, I was like, this is going to
Yeah.
go one of two ways, but it wasn't bad.
So what am I leaving out? There were two more events, right? There's a farmer, some kind of load, I assume.
It was so it opened with a oh god, yeah, axle press was the opener. There was sandbag toss where there were five
Okay.
sandbags
Yeah.
of and it was a 15-foot pole, which was
Mhm.
really interesting. So normally it's like closer to a 12-foot pole, mainly for
Yeah.
women. And so it was what, 10 pounds, 10 pounds, 15 pounds, 15 pounds, 20 pounds. And you just have to throw them.
Yeah.
And I was the only one of all the women, regardless of the class, that even cleared it, which was cool. And a
Yeah.
lot of that comes from the fact that I row, like my main sport's rowing.
Okay.
So it's all hip hinge work. So if there's anything I can do, it's a hip hinge, right?
Yeah.
And so then there was, let me think, sandbag to shoulder, which that was a 2 minutes to do just as many as you can. And it was at like 150 pounds or I lied, 125 pounds because I normally
Mhm.
train with a 150-pound sandbag.
Okay. Yeah.
And I did like 10, and the guy was like, I'm just gonna stop you at a minute. Like you've won. It's fine.
Yeah.
So I only did it for a minute. And then, oh God, what was the other one? Farmers, axle, sandbag, um, throw sandbag, sandbag to shoulder. I don't even know why I can't remember the last one right now. It's gonna hit me in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
just the whole thing was just a blur. But
Understandable. Yeah, and I should have checked back one more time because I had it pulled up, but hectic day, and
you
you're gonna
think I
Google
remember
it for us.
it, right?
Yeah. Well, were you just one motioning the sandbag then, pretty much? Yeah,
Pretty much. The
just
carry
straight
or the
up.
throw?
The or the I mean, yeah, the like to shoulder, the sandbag to
Oh,
shoulder.
yeah. So I actually
Yeah.
really like that one just because like it's
Yeah.
again it's a hip hinge, right? So I kind of get in my
Mhm.
lap and I just throw it
Just
up.
pop it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So Ukrainian deadlift. That's what it was. That was the fifth one. I was
Oh,
like,
the
wait,
fifth. Okay, yeah, with the
like we
first that we
talked about
talked
it.
about,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
So
Okay.
I told you it hit me later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a really cool movement because you just started training strongman, didn't you? I think I saw.
Yes, I've been doing powerlifting, and I just similar situation to you. Signed up on a whim a couple weeks ago. The difference is I am cutting weight. I normally walk around at 210, and I'm 184 right now, so I'm gonna
Wow.
get down to 180 by the time. But yeah,
So are you doing a comp?
yeah. We
Oh,
got a
okay.
I got a local show here in 2 weeks, and then there's one in North Georgia, July 27th. That the local
Nice.
show, I'm just kind of gonna just jumping into it. I can't really train on the implements, but I have the equipment to train for the one in Georgia at the end of July. So that's actually more what I'm specifically preparing for. But yeah. So it's
Yeah,
been a nice transition from powerlifting. My elbows are thanking me.
I believe that completely.
Yeah.
When I was on my compass, I've never used belts. I've never used because I have
Yeah.
so my background, like as a trainer, I'm really functional fitness, like really sports driven. And
Yeah.
strongman was cool. Powerlifting, I know enough to be dangerous, but like not enough to
Yeah.
really do it. And so I never wore any of the stuff. And getting elbow sleeves was the greatest thing I ever did because it's like
Yeah.
it, the pop up so much
Uh,
easier. And
yeah.
so it was cool. But yeah, so I mean, all things with the comp itself, it really just kind of steamrolled. And I was like, this, all that hip hinge movement, all the sandbags and whatnot, it's addictive. It really is. So
Yeah.
see how
Yeah.
this goes.
Yeah, and you told me you're prepping for regionals. Now, is that the OSG qualifier up in Jacksonville also?
Yeah.
Is it in
So
Jackson?
I've got funny enough, so total dual sport. I have
Mhm.
U.S. rowing Southeast regionals in 2 weeks.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
Yeah, and then so I'm doing it's a pair and a double. So in rowing, there's
Uh,
sculling, which is one
yeah,
person, two oars, and then sweep rowing. So I'm doing both pair and double, and my partner and I were going up. And her and I won the gold last year at regionals, and then went to nationals, and that was a ton of fun. So we're doing that again this summer, and then I have OSG regionals for strongman, so that is
yeah.
August. So it's just kind of like
Wow.
June,
Okay.
July, August. So the training
Yeah.
is nuts. It's like towing the line between not overtraining, but still
Mhm.
making sure I'm getting everything done. But
So
yeah, that's
I'd be curious to hear how you're balancing that at this point. I mean, obviously there's going to be you're going to have some fatigue carryover just from, like you said, all the hip hinging work, you know?
yeah. I mean, the nice thing is I row every morning. So I'm on the water at 5. And so I'm up at 4 something and I row from 5 to about 7, 5 days a week or so. And then so that takes care of all my mornings. Then I have a whole day. Then I work. I have a desk job, so I sit on my butt. And then I strength train like a hard lower day once a week, a hard upper day, like a strongman specific that my coach gives me. Saturdays, we do Strongman Saturdays. So like today I was doing Atlas Stone, I was doing Zercher carries, like all that just on Saturdays. And then I'll erg a couple nights of the week. So I try to get in a rest day, but kind of how it flows is strength is in the evening and
Mhm.
then my rowing training's in the morning. But they're really complementary, actually. The reason why I like justified in my own head that I'd be doing strongman is that I was like, oh, it's cross training for rowing, obviously.
Sure, yeah. And you've got the functional background, so
Yeah.
you probably love cross training.
Yeah, which this time I actually is cross training, but that's actually how I got into
Yeah.
rowing. So my background is MMA. And so when I
No
started
way.
rowing, yeah, so when I started rowing, I was like, oh, this is just great cardio cross training for
Yeah.
MMA. That was 2 years ago, and I don't fight anymore. So that's how
Wow.
that
Yeah, it
yeah.
just got the bug. Okay, so
Better for the face.
we really need to actually rewind. I want to get your athletic history here, if that's okay.
Yeah. So well, funny enough, I really didn't become a dumb jock till like late 20s, early 30s. Like, so I'm 31 now. And so high school, I played all the sports. Like I was that kid where I've been this size. Like I'm like walking around like some usually in the 170s. I'm five
Mhm.
seven, just kind of stocky. And so I've been like this since I was in high school. So every coach that saw me was like, you should play a sport.
Yeah,
I played lacrosse, it was awesome, but I was a straight A student, drama kid, band kid. Like that's what I did.
yeah,
College, I was like, okay, well, I'm a lump of a human. I'm going to run. And so I became a hardcore runner. Like I was doing 10 miles a day and it was a ton
yeah.
of fun. So my foot, both of my arches were just like, this is not what we're doing anymore. Got my training cert was, I really started learning about the strength training, still going to a podiatrist. I'm like, hey, I need to keep running. Like this really is my life. And so I'm getting the cortisone shots in my feet. I'm doing all that. And the guy was like, you might just not be built to be a runner. Like you should probably look at barefoot sports. And so at that point, I'm 23 and I'm hearing that I can't run anymore. And so I was like, well, what barefoot sports are there? And that got me into Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. And so
Okay, yeah,
that's how that, so I started looking for, well, first I took like a title boxing class, which is like a cardio kickboxing. I was like,
yeah,
this is cute. I ended up coaching there just as a side gig pre-COVID.
yeah.
And then that's when I did the Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. And I really did that for years. And still do. I just don't train it as much as I used to.
Yeah,
And
where's this time, right? You don't have the
there's no
time
time for
anymore.
that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that one sucks. Like I do miss those a lot. I have so much love for the sport, so much love for the people. And I do when I'm not actively competing, like learning all these techniques. So, meticulously, I want to get back into it. But
Mhm.
I did that until 2022. Yeah. And then my coach's, my MMA coach's wife rode and was like, you got to come check it out. I was like, yeah, cool cross training. I love the water. I live in Claremont, and
Yeah.
I live in Lake County, right? And so I was like, I'll go check it out. And now I know that I was being swindled. So there was a regatta that was being hosted on the lake. And so I go up to the regatta, and it was my wife and I actually, and she's like, I really want to get into a sport. I really want to try something. So my friend Jazz, and she's like, hey, I'm back at the boathouse. And I was like, I don't know where that is. And she's like, well, I obviously couldn't come see you on the water. So come back and meet me at the boathouse. And I'm like, all right, that makes sense. And she's like, there's food trucks. So I go there and I walk in the door, and the coach kind of does this. And he's like, you look strong. We need people. And he's like, conveniently, there's a learn to row in 3 days. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
is there?
Oh man,
And
you were
so
totally entrapped.
I was. And Chelsea's a little taller than me, legs for days. And so he looked at two fairly young adults, and masters in rowing is, I think, 21 and above.
Oh,
And so
okay.
we were younger for the masters, and he was
Yeah.
like more athletes. And yeah, then the rest was history. And next thing you know, I'm U.S. rowing coach. I'm their strength coach. I started a strength program there, and I just haven't left. Yeah, I coach the youth and the masters teams for strength.
That's so cool. And it just seems like what I'm hearing as a theme of that story is you sink your teeth all the way into something.
Oh
And
yeah,
just by virtue of doing that, there's like this excess momentum that carries you into the next thing. You accidentally get into the boxing that leads to full scale MMA, jujitsu, and then you get entrapped, like we said, into rowing. And then suddenly on a
that's a
whim,
good
you're
word.
winning your
Full
first
send
strongman comp.
constantly.
Yeah.
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 Well, there's a reason I'm not trying like professional ballet, right? Like I know the things I'll be good at, and I
Yeah.
kind of go those
Yeah.
directions. But it's a ton of, and the people are just so cool. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
really try this. I want to do cool stuff with good people. And if I can happen to win some like races or, pick up some heavy stuff, like I'm not mad about it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
one thing
awesome.
really led to another. Yeah. It's been a wild ride.
Yeah, I think it's really rare to see athletes who are competing at a high level in sort of like an endurance-based sport and then a strength sport at the same time. And I mean, I know that that's not a hard line in rowing, right? There's absolutely a strength component there. I mean, strongman, God, not CrossFit. Strongman absolutely has a
Yeah.
cardiovascular component, especially in the weight class aspect, I mean, a lot of it ends up being races, it seems like, with heavy
You have
things.
to be fast. And I'm really kind of counting on that because
Yeah.
I am just kind of going and figuring it out. And I was like, but if I've got one thing, I know I've got more cardio than the average
Yeah.
person at this comp, is kind of how I've been going into them. So as
Yeah.
long as I lift the weight, I think I'll get across it fastest. And that's
Totally.
what I did on the sandbag. So I was just kind of repping. And it was funny in the comp, I felt like such that guy because I had won every event and I like was feeling kind of bad at that point. Like the women that were amazing, they were like, "You're not a novice." I'm like, "I swear I am." And
Yeah.
so I felt a little bad because I was like, "Oh, they messed up their scoring. Like some algorithm went weird and it said one person who was like last became first or whatever." So I did walk
Okay.
up and I was like, "Hey, heads up, like I know this isn't right because I know I won." Like they cut me
Yeah.
off in a minute because I got 10. And he's
Yeah.
like, "You got 10 on sandbag?" I was like, "Yeah." And he just looked at me and he's like, that wasn't the point to get that many. And it was because I just went quick. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
keep moving, it really does help.
And that's a tough position to be in because, like you said, you were legitimately a novice. You trained for 2 weeks or 3 weeks,
I know.
right? So it was like,
Might
yeah,
have
but
got a month. Yeah.
are you going to come in at 165 for this regional competition? What class are you going to do?
161 is
Okay.
technically midweight. Yeah, so midweight has two different categories.
Hmm.
So under 148 and under 161.
Yeah.
I do pretty happily walk around in the high 160s, low 170s.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna kind
Yeah.
of and I from fight sports, like I fought at 145. And
Yeah. So you know how to water cut.
yeah, and so I've enjoyed not being even remotely close to that small. So
Yeah.
I'm like a happy like 175 right now. And I was like, I should
Okay.
probably sharpen that up a little bit before and then just
Yeah.
water cut it. Like if I can water cut like 5 pounds, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna, I've got time as long as I get it together.
Yeah. August, that's
Yeah.
plenty of time.
So the cardio helps a little bit. I have no excuse
Yeah.
but to grow. And that's been one of our biggest hard things with my training is if a person wants to cut, I mean, you probably get this. If you want to cut weight, you're like, okay, well, you eat less, work out more, essentially, right? You've got an input and an output.
Yeah.
My output is like I average burn like 700 to 800 active calories a day just existing, just doing what I'm
Yeah.
doing. So it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
metabolic, that's none of that. So
Mhm.
I'm like, well, where else am I gonna find time to erg for an hour? And so that's
Yeah.
an interesting problem to have is like I can't just do dedicated cardio for the sake of losing weight. I'm like training for a whole other sport that I need to
Yeah.
be able to compete in.
And you don't have the energy reserves, I imagine. You need every second of recovery you can get between that in that schedule. So are you just going to be tracking food and kind of tapering down calories?
Yep, and
Yeah.
that's kind of what I've been doing, which again was probably for the best, anyways. So I
Yeah.
mean, I got pretty lax. I'm having less whiskey and bourbon, but that's been the big thing.
That's
So
probably the most dispensable macronutrient, if we even want to call it
right,
that. Yeah.
it was pretty macro in my lifestyle for a minute, but
Fair enough.
besides that, yeah, that's going to be, I think, a pretty big help. And
Yeah.
that was just because I was finally in a sport again. I didn't have to worry about weight, which
Yeah.
that was when I got back into it kind of nice. And I was like, I like being really regulated. So that was actually appealing that there's a weight class that you compete in and that there's
Yeah.
scaled weights for it. And because
Yeah.
I'm seeing some of the stuff some of these women are pulling, because you look at, the Arnold, you look at some of these really big events, and these women are huge. Like there's
Yes. Yeah. Inez
no
is like
way in
six
hell.
one or something. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
nuts. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they're incredible, but
Yep.
there's no chance I'm getting anywhere near that. Not at my
Yeah.
size. So
Yeah, well, that's one thing that was really exciting to me, deciding to pivot into strongman, which again just happened very recently in my life. But
yeah,
was to know that's always a thing I thought was really cool and I wanted to do, but I wasn't really that aware of the weight class aspect of the sport. I mean, I knew there was a 105 class,
right.
but those guys cut from like 250. and I'm 5'8". As a power lifter, I like to walk around at 210, train at two. That's where I feel good. That's an easy water cut to 198 if you want to do it. But um, I I naturally I hit a couple big PRs on squat and bench in April, and I was naturally losing weight. I mean, I'd been tracking to stay in a surplus, and I just had some life stress, and I was like, oh God, I'm under 200 pounds for the first time, in months. And so
Yeah.
it was kind of, I just took that momentum, and I looked at the comp weights for 180, and I was just thinking about, for me, where I might be competitive, where are the guys who are my height in the sport, right? Because I'm also thinking of like height for stone over bar or something,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be having to press the stone, to get it over the bar. So
Yeah, I did that
unfortunately,
today. I
it's,
don't recommend it. I was like,
yeah, on the
and like it's
high,
like
yeah.
200 pounds, and I'm just grunting trying to get this stone
Oh
over.
man,
Yeah,
yeah,
you want it to be right for your height, that's for sure.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, the 180 seemed the right, and as soon as I leave, as soon as I compete, I'll probably enter a surplus again and maybe just, stay within striking distance. But we'll see. I might end up as a 198.
Yeah,
But yeah, just because
that'd
I
be fun.
think I'll have a happier life.
It's relevant. It
Yeah,
really is. Yeah,
yeah. I
that's
mean, and
cool.
it has been hard seeing my strengths. Like I'm just trying to hang on to what I have at this point, just because I've been in a pretty steep deficit. It's tapering off now because I'm getting close to the weight I need to be, but yeah, definitely makes a difference.
Yeah, hanging on to your strength while cutting is just, anyone who can manage that, you found the secret sauce to
The
any kind
secret
of
sauce.
sport. Like
Yeah, yeah. Or
it's
you've
the
purchased the
hardest
secret
thing.
sauce,
Yeah.
perhaps. Yeah,
That's
that too.
relevant in strongman too. And so that's actually
Yeah.
a big thing for me where I was kind of like, listen, my other sport is a natty
Mhm.
sport. So I was
Yeah,
like, that's not an I'm not interested in first off, there's
yeah,
I totally understand there's a bunch of ways of enhancing performance, but as an athlete in a sport that's regulated, that's not they're not going off and testing masters rowers, but if I want to compete at a high level and whatnot, it's just not a
yeah.
habit I want to get into.
Of
And I know
course.
for a fact some of like the best in the world are the best in the world because they have to be. There's such a stress on the body. Like
Yeah.
sometimes you need a little bit for recovery, whatever stuff people are on. And I'm like, I was talking to my coach and I was like, how far am I going to get? He's like, well, you're naturally strong enough that you'll get pretty far with learning even these techniques. So
Yeah.
that's totally relevant too.
Yeah.
It's a weird world. Powerlifting is all it's regulated, isn't it?
There's organizations that are drug
Yeah.
tested, and regulated heavily, and then there are non-drug tested organizations. So you can go either route, right? But yeah, and the people who are in the drug tested say, well, it's not drug tested consistently enough, and they're
Yeah.
not tested out of competition, which they are technically, but the frequency is, so people are always going to complain whatever side they're on, but
They are. I'm like, listen, you do you. It's at the end of the day, half these things are spectator sports and whatever works. But that's when, if you send me up to do a deadlift that's 800 pounds, there's no way I'm doing that natural, put it that way.
oh
So
yeah,
not,
exactly. Me
not it.
neither.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's wild. But
Yeah.
it's cool. These people are athletes in every way. And I'm like, listen, I will watch your videos all day. That's
Yeah.
fine. Like
Yeah.
it's still in
Def
front.
Oh, I know. And that's one thing I like is that there's a point with powerlifting where it's like, okay, I'm going to watch this guy do one rep and there's a certain number of red kilo plates on the bar, but there's so much diversity in the movements, they're more it is more of a spectator sport,
Yeah.
yeah. You're picking up cool shit that's more relatable to someone as, oh yeah, that's a car. That's pretty heavy, like
Oh my God. So regional OSG regionals.
uh
I freaking Florida, man. So I look across the different comps in the different regions. I was like, oh, it's
yeah.
super normal strongman stuff. You've got sandbags, you've got presses, you've got axles. Florida goes, hold my beer. You are pulling a pirate ship with pirates on it.
I
And
saw that.
I'm
Yeah.
like, so the description, I'm so excited. This is half the reason why I
Yeah.
signed. It's like the weight is heavy. That's all it tells you. And it's
Yeah.
like you are pulling a pirate ship. There are pirates yelling at you on the ship. Like that is the Florida
That's
regionals. And
amazing.
I'm like,
Yeah.
what? And so I like bring it up to my friend. I'm like, is this real life? And he's like, oh yeah, that's strongman for you. And I was like, that's awesome. Like it's just going
So
to be a good
amazing.
time no matter what. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's hilarious the kind of events you see. But you're right, it's so practical. Like I remember one week I had just started training strongman, like maybe 2 weeks, and then got like a random wild hair up my ass, and I was like, I'm gonna turf my backyard. And so it's like on a Saturday, I did Strongman Saturday over at my gym. I was like, I'm gonna turf my backyard and to do so, like it wasn't huge. We were laying out like 70 feet
Yeah.
of turf. You've got to get rocks, you've got to get sand to put between the rocks. You've got to get there's a couple different size stones you need to do, and these are
Uh,
like 50-pound bags of stones. I
yeah.
think we did, I've just got your like average ram, so like it's just a 1500. I think we did like 8 trips to Lowe's because of the weight, so much weight, and like pallets of stone and sand, stone and
Yeah.
sand. And I'm lugging it to my backyard. And so I'm picking it up and I heave it. I'm like, this is familiar. I'm just
Yeah. The
walking.
front carry, everything
Yeah,
in
and
strongman. Yeah.
I trained like crazy for like a good 48 hours just turfing my backyard. And I'm just laughing, right?
Yeah.
Like picking up sand and walking. And I was like, well, that now makes sense.
Yeah.
There's some cross training for life happening here. So
Definitely. That's
I was
funny.
cracking up. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're doing the Strongman Saturday. How have you liked that?
It's awesome. I mean, it's nice.
Yeah.
So it's probably, I think I was out there like 3 hours today, and was just telling my friend maybe doing 15 minutes of like working out work,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
it's because you get up to certain maxes, and today we were just figuring out 1 rep maxes of a lot.
Oh, okay.
I was figuring out the stone, and like there's a lot of like,
Yeah.
first off, there was probably, I think like 12 of us out there today. So you're sort of cycling through some people and then you're changing weights, reloading weights, but you're just really perfecting the technique and the event. And that's
Yeah.
not a lot of like, you're not just doing a bunch of reps. You're not just doing a solid, efficient workout for an hour. It's really, truly events. But it's been a game changer for me just because I
Yeah.
don't have time to train that in other points of the week. And more importantly, I'm so new, I'm going to for sure hurt myself. So
Yeah.
having a group of people that some people know a lot, some people don't know anything at all. It's really helped out for like the learnings to pass on. Like I'm
Yeah.
figuring out the stone today, and I hear from behind me, put your feet together. And so I did, and I was able to
Yeah.
lift it. So
Nice.
it's
Nice.
cool. Yeah.
Like you mean at like when you're lapping it, like you put your knees
Yep.
together? Yep.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'm just holding it like this. And I was like, okay, it's
Right.
not
It's
going
like, what do
anywhere.
I put this on?
They go,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it worked out eventually. And I wouldn't have known that if I wasn't with people way more experienced than me. So
Totally.
it helps
Yeah.
a ton. Do you train out of a gym that like has a bunch of people, or are you just like totally lone wolfing this experience?
Oh, I'm very much lone wolfing. But that's just because the time of day that I have to train. I'm working 7 days a week right now. So, I'm in there by 5. And I did hire on a coach, Sam Schaethler. He's a really good strong man. He's bench 600, deadlifts 835. So he's just strong as shit. And he's like 25. But yeah, and he's a competitive strongman. So he's going to be doing
Yeah.
my programming. But I've been, I've programmed for myself for powerlifting for a long time. So I enjoy that aspect, but I know I'll get better if someone who actually knows what they're doing helps me out.
Right.
Yeah, but
Cool.
so I'm in there alone. I'm watching a lot of tutorials. I'm sending Sam clips and he's giving me kind of feedback, to help me with stuff. And like one thing, we got to do a keg load, like a max keg load, in the
Haven't
July
done that
thing.
yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And so like I was kind of gripping it like one hand here, the heavy hand closer and the light end with the on the outer side. And he was like, just hug it, like it's a
Yeah.
stone or like it's a sandbag or something. And so I did that, and it was so much easier to get like my hips under it and extend. So
Yeah.
just little stuff like that. And we got to do a farmer's walk with a turn. You can't drop and turn. You got to do the turn. And that has
Yeah.
been so hard for me to
Was
figure out. It's like giving
yeah.
me this like radiating pain and like my ulnar and stuff. But
Uh,
yeah, so I'm figuring it out. But there's a lot of people at my gym who do train it just at a more normal hour.
okay.
So maybe one of these days I'll get Saturdays off so I can come in later.
I mean, yeah, you're doing the most important, getting a good coach that can like watch what you're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know how people join the sport without it. Like at least
Yeah.
having someone who knows what they're doing to tell you, hey, like move your hand or whatever. Otherwise,
Yes.
I would have definitely dropped a log on my head by now. So
Oh,
that,
totally. Yeah, the first time I tried log, I blacked out.
oh no, I believe
Don't
that.
tell my mom that. I mean, I'm
I
sure she'll
won't.
watch this, but yeah.
She's gonna see it. And yeah,
Yeah, it's just I think I blood choked myself when I cleaned it, and it was like that
yeah,
actually happened to me on front squats too. Yeah, but I've
yep.
solved that problem. Yeah.
It's the worst. I mean, because I'll use a grip shirt, and the first time I use a grip shirt, I
Uh,
rolled it, and then I like kind of clipped underneath my chin. I was like, that
oh,
sucked.
yeah.
And then you have to find a way to get the heavy thing over your head. Uh,
Right.
yeah, it really is. Have you done a circus dumbbell yet? because
No, but we've got one.
that's a fun one.
Yeah,
That is a solid good chance of dropping it on your head. Like you've got to really
perfect.
have that technique down lock.
Yeah,
But it's so fun. And then you kind of go back to, I mean, strongman started with just circus strongmen. So
yeah,
if it's a
yeah.
sport that started from a guy in the circus wearing like a
Uh,
unitard, it's only going to be good.
yeah.
Like it's
Mhm.
only going to be fun.
Yes, 100%. The handlebar mustache,
Yep.
the unitard. Yeah.
It's a look. I might figure something like that out for Halloween one of these days and just see what I can whip
Oh,
up.
absolutely.
Mustache and all,
Absolutely.
obviously, will be
Yes,
part of the look.
of course, necessary. Yeah. Um, I guess that if you're worried about clipping yourself in the chin with the log, you're used to that situation from MMA. So you probably are more adaptable.
Yeah, but it's so much worse when you do it to yourself. Like when you
Right. That's
like,
true.
oh,
Yeah.
I messed up. As opposed
Yeah.
to like be like when you get into a ring or you get into a sparring match, whatever, like you enter danger intentionally. If
Sure.
you're picking something up and you do something stupid, like your pride hurts before anything else. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, well,
Yeah.
everyone, that's
Yeah.
cool.
And why is log so much? I mean, I know why, but have you found that log is so much harder than strict press, like barbell or axle strict press?
I think it's easier. And for me,
Really?
only
Yeah.
because of the angle for the positioning for the hands,
Uh,
my body likes it. So like
okay.
axle or anything else where you hold out like this, like I
Yeah.
can do them. They're like I did them in the comp and that's what I've
Yeah.
done my entire lifting career. But as soon as
Yeah.
I kind of locked in like this, I was like, oh, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And it kind of translates back. So whenever I coach people that are newer to working out anything like that, when you think if they pick up dumbbells, you go, hey, do overhead press. Everyone does this. So I don't know if it's
Yeah.
just a more natural movement, right? Because that's kind of
Yeah.
your whole log. And obviously the lockout is what's hard, but I don't know if it's just I like it more. But as soon as I picked it
Yeah.
up, I'm definitely I can rep a log way easier than I can rep a bar.
Wow. Well, I have to get to that place because I can strict press way more than I could even probably push press with a log.
That's a
So
technique
yeah.
thing. Yeah, I think you'll
Yeah.
get it. And
Yeah.
I say that like I know what I'm doing. I get lucky sometimes, but it's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's clear that you have to have like a high athletic IQ to have moved between so many sports and pick them up so quickly.
Yeah, that's I think what every coach has told me. And they're
Yeah.
like, you're just I get where my body is in space, but funny
Mhm.
enough, the sports that I've translated well to, so I played lacrosse in high school. I picked up tennis and did really well. Trash at golf, but I guess if I had tried it, when I was a kid, I guess I was good. But things that
Yeah.
like you're holding something and then rowing, you're holding something and then you're doing something else. So that transfer, like I was okay at basketball, I was okay at soccer, like that didn't work as well for me. But if you've given me a racket or an oar, anything like that, golden. Like I can find what I
Yeah.
need to find. And then just with weightlifting, it's just physics. Like that's really all it is, which I'm
Yeah.
a big nerd for in general. So if you can in rowing, if you can figure out physics and geometry, you're great. Weightlifting, same thing.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough. Yeah. I wish that I hadn't stopped math in high school.
yeah, right. Oh, I had to relearn it.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are your goals? Do you see yourself, if you're comfortable speaking about them,
Yeah.
are you wanting to qualify for nationals again with the rowing regionals?
Yeah, so we're already set up to go to nationals in July. So
Oh,
we're doing
okay.
that no matter what. Yeah, so I'm really pumped about that. So rowing, that's kind of I do want to go to Worlds for rowing. I don't know where it is
Wow.
this year.
Yeah.
It'd probably be a next year thing.
Okay.
Um, and so, but this year, I just want to see. I mean, I've done a comp. I barely know what I'm doing in strongman. I wouldn't be mad about going to Worlds in December.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm just gonna go big on this one and we'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
if I qualify in regionals, I've got a solid shot of it just being there because it's in Madison this year. It's, domestic, just go there and check it
Yeah.
out. It'd be fun. So those are the current goals. If I do any goals past 2024, it's going to get insane. So I'm just
Yeah.
starting with I want to survive my next comp and then go from there.
Those are
Um,
good
but
ambitions. Yeah.
yeah, but I do everything there's a reason why the second comp I'm doing is OSG Regionals, right? Not like a local one. So
Yeah.
I purposely try to set myself up to get to the big ones, like one day
Mhm.
getting over to the Arnold, stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I've got a long way to go before that
Yeah.
happens.
Well,
So
I think it's good to get the experience at that big show where there are going to be athletes who are vying, for
yeah.
for OSG, who you will be among them, but see people with more experience, and I'm sure you'll learn a lot too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you've got people that have been training for years doing this. And it's cool to watch because really you go up,
Yeah.
you do your event, and then you're standing around. And so you get to
Mhm.
see everything else everyone's doing. So I'm going part as an athlete, but part because I'm just going to be taking notes the whole time. That's
Absolutely.
that's all I'm
That's
gonna be
really
doing.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I misunderstood or I misremembered. I was thinking regionals for rowing were in July, but you're already
Yeah.
qualified. So that's
Yeah.
nationals. Yeah.
That's the nice thing. So like US rowing, the Masters Nationals, you can actually just go, which is really cool. So
Oh, nice.
the only one from my club going just because it you can just go, but you really shouldn't go unless you've really got a fighting shot. Because if not,
Yeah.
it's just like a don't be televised and looking like an
Sure.
idiot.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's June is regionals rowing, July is nationals rowing, August is regionals strongman. So
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
even trying to keep it straight.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of
Wow.
showing up and I'm like, it's in my calendar. What plane do I need to
Yeah.
be on? I'll be fine.
Well, just don't taper in the wrong sport at the wrong time.
Well, fortunately, rowing is really all legs. So I'm getting
Yeah.
a lot of my leg days in by just training right now. And I've seen it cross-reference a few times. So like my erg times and my erg scores have gotten faster rowing. So
Wow.
the taper, I can still taper, but I'm already stronger, so it'll help out.
Yeah. That
Like,
makes sense.
yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it would be crazy to see you at Worlds in two separate sports in the same year.
It would be stupid, but also anyone who knows me wouldn't be surprised in the slightest.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just
Well,
kind of
just
like,
from
I'm
this
just gonna do it.
conversation, I wouldn't be,
Yeah. I'm just like, why not? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
completely convinced the only reason a lot of people like as adults don't try to be a serious athlete is they get in their own heads. Like our bodies can do a lot. Like
Yep.
I'm I've got a high athletic IQ and I get that and like I'm a trainer, but it's only because I never stopped training. Like I kind of kept going and I don't really have that voice in my head that says, "Hey, this isn't a good idea." I know so many people that are way fitter than me, way stronger, but like mentally they're like, "Nah, I don't think I can do this because of like that." So
Yeah.
you just kind of have to go for it sometimes.
You clearly do go for it.
Yeah.
That seems an
Oh,
aspect of
full
your
control.
personality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you personal train Gin Pop and you're also the rowing strength coach?
Yeah. So
Okay.
for when I started at the boathouse, the program had about I want to say like 60 youth and like 60 adults. And so, but one thing they didn't have is strength and conditioning at all. And I was like, listen, if you want to be any kind of serious athletic program, there's no way you can't do strength and conditioning. So I started doing it I was like, hey, I'll have a class on Sundays. And then I ended up showing up at some of the youth practices and I worked with the head coach and I was like, I'll show up a few days. I just did that for a whole season, just on my own time. And then they brought me on staff. They were like, we should probably be paying you at this point. So they brought me on staff at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
Which has been great. I mean, it really is. I was going to do it anyways, and don't tell them that, but I would have done it anyways.
Yeah.
And so it was a big need, and it's been really cool because a lot of people, mainly on the master's level, were older, hadn't done a sport. I say older, but 40s, 50s, 60s,
Mhm.
hadn't really done a
Yeah.
sport since maybe high school. And they were like, we have no idea what to do. So, I mean, I spent a good 8 weeks of like, what is a squat? And I've had a group of probably like
Wow.
10 people who have not missed a week. I get a lot of people that come in and out, but I've got a core group that just I've seen them progress. And it's been and your mom actually used to come to a lot of my classes and she's
Yeah.
very strong for a very small person, by the way.
Yeah.
And so it was cool seeing this group really just get better and better. And that in itself is just it's fun. It's fun to be a part of that. But yeah, that's how I ended
Yeah.
up looping in on that.
That's cool. Yeah, it's got to be so rewarding to take a group of people and kind of empower them, through movement and show them that they're capable of maybe they thought that, for whatever fallacy they had about the ideas around knee pain or back pain, which are like, don't do anything, just stay in a cast to
Oh,
show, oh, wait, it's actually motion is lotion in many cases,
yeah.
right? And yeah.
Yeah, it's the amount of people that are like, yeah, I had knee surgery a few years ago and I've been really trying to take it easy. I'm like, for how many years are we taking it easy? Like,
Right.
at this
Yeah. Which
point,
just leads to less mobility and more pain, you
yeah.
know? Yeah.
And it's nice because a lot of the people who already were at the boathouse, they understood that and they're like, okay, well, clearly they had to make a change. So I've already got people who mentally wanted to do the thing. They just really needed
Yeah.
to be somehow. So that's really where that came into play, which was just wild. I mean, you've got people who went from not understanding what overhead press is to, strict pressing over 100 pounds over their head. And for an average middle-aged woman that never would have done anything like that, like that's such a cool moment for them. Uh,
Yes, that is very impressive. Yeah.
yeah. And so it shows them that they can. And that's probably
Yeah.
what I like the most about it.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you went to school to become like a personal trainer?
Nope. Did that totally on my own time. Well,
Wow.
yeah. So, I mean, because again, I was lump of a human and just kind of a nerd. So I went to UF. I was there on scholarship. And it was an academic scholarship.
Mhm.
So I thought I was going to be a lawyer and I got a degree in political science. And I also got a degree in anthropology because I finished my degree so fast that I was like, well, I want to be here for 4 years. I'm getting paid for 4 years.
Yeah.
Realized I didn't want to be a lawyer and had two fairly useless degrees. So I went back for my master's.
Okay.
And my master's is master's of science, and it's basically an economics degree, but like wrapped in a nice little tourism bow because it's
Oh, okay.
fun. And so it's kind of like my master's thesis is called the beer theory, which is beverage tourism's economic and
Oh.
environmental relationships. So that's
Oh,
like
that's
where my
cool.
head was at.
Yeah.
Um, but the cool thing is that program was out of the College of Health and Human Performance at UF. So I got exposed to a lot of those classes, and I was able to take a lot of health and performance classes through my master's that counted as essentially elective credits.
Oh,
And I was like, wait a minute, this is a little more interesting for me.
yeah.
So I did my NASM, see, what is
Yeah.
it? Certified personal trainer, certified nutrition coach, all that. But really I learned personal training through just training people. So because
Yeah.
I had a couple people that were like I just started working with and then one thing led to another and that's really I think how you become a coach is you can have all the knowledge, but if you can't communicate it, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that the oft quoted scenario is the person who's the math savant, can't teach a class to save their life, right?
Yep. No, that's totally it. But I actually, I'm trying to bring it around full circle and realize this would have made more sense if I mentioned it earlier, but I'm in the process right now of taking over a gym franchise and it's next to my strongman gym. Yeah, you're
No
actually the
way.
first person really hearing this. We're signing all
Yeah.
the paperwork right now. It's locked in. It's next to it's a franchise. It's called Hit Fit Gym.
Okay.
But it's a circuit and a personal training. So I'm gonna funnel all my personal
Mhm.
training in there. But really at first the owner, I know him because I was the video person for them for like 4 years ago because I did all the kickboxing videos. It was a video
Oh,
circuit.
wow. Okay.
So I
Yeah.
knew about them and then I bumped into them and one thing led to another, but it's getting a chance to like kind of come back full circle on the personal training and just like redirect a lot of my attention to doing that more full time.
Yeah.
I'm super pumped about because that's really just that's what I like. It's what I enjoy. And if have downtime in the day, I can go next door to my strongman gym and work out.
Nice.
That
Yeah.
was a high level of commitment. I was like, I'm just gonna buy the place next door so I can go to the gym all the time.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
literally bought in.
yeah,
And
it's
again,
a
yeah,
full
and
set
that's
again.
good. Yeah, consistent with everything we've talked about. That's just
Yeah,
how you live your life. But congratulations. That's so exciting.
yeah, I'm super, super pumped about it. I mean, it definitely caters more for the people that, I work with currently at the boathouse, that they're like, I don't really know how to work out. I want to get into it. Because I really think fitness should be for everyone. Like you don't have to be a crazy person who trains for like 6 hours on a Saturday to be
Yeah,
fit.
yeah,
And so it's finding that happy medium and seeing both sides has been so much fun. So
that's
curious to see who's going to show up because like I know half the people know me from rowing and half people know me from strongman, so I'm gonna get a weird crowd, but
yeah,
and it's like not 100% catered for either, not
yeah,
catered at all for strongman, but we'll see we'll see the type of people that walk in the front door.
yeah. You might have to borrow some farmer's handles or sandbags from next door.
I'll run over real fast and be like, I just
Yeah,
need them to carry something, please.
yeah, yeah.
It'll be fine.
Would your ambition be eventually to make that gym like a full-time enterprise and drop your kind of day job?
So I'm gonna go with a hard maybe. The
Okay.
franchise, it's that one individual franchise wouldn't probably just be, if anything, I would open a
Yeah.
couple.
Okay.
Um, and then I'm also talking with the owner, we're figuring out, all the different ways of like how we can grow the brand together. Because they've got already a couple franchises, they've got more people coming in. So probably not that just one location, just
Yeah.
because I like doing a lot of things. And my day job's great right now, so it's really
Okay.
complimentary.
Yeah.
So that's that's a TBD. But I definitely, the more I can steer myself into fitness, the better. And so that's something that I'm always going to try to keep doing. You can
Yeah,
leave that.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I'm many steps behind you, but I feel myself moving in that direction. I've dumped 7 years into grad school for 2 degrees that I don't even want to use, and I wasn't viable in the job market with. And so the whole time I was doing that, I was educating myself. And I mean, ever since I was 8, I was a high level runner and triathlete through my teens. And I got back into Ironmans during COVID. And so 3 years ago, I was 120 pounds doing
Oh,
Ironmans. And then
wow.
I circled back, into strength training in 2022. But all through that time, what I was doing on my free time was reading like Mass, which is like the monthly applications of strength sports, right? And like digging deep into sports science and nutrition. And that's always been a huge part of my life. And it's just like, it took me getting through a PhD to realize, why did I not get my PhD in the thing I'm actually interested in? So
That's the worst thing too, right? Like I had to
yeah,
keep going back at higher education to be like, but I like this now, and now I like this. And so
yeah,
like I'm the biggest one that if I could have really waited until like 25 to get any kind of upper education, I would have saved so much money.
yeah.
Which by the way, but it really it's because people grow. Like you don't
Mhm.
know who you are at
Yeah.
17.
Oh no.
And
Yeah.
then you really still don't know who you are at 24. So like
Yeah.
it really does change. So I feel you on that one.
Well, I will still say, fellow anthropology major in undergrad here,
Yes.
anthropology is still cool. It's
It is
still freaking cool.
so cool. It was just
Yeah.
really useless. Like I couldn't do
Sure.
anything with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But funny enough, my sister-in-law's sister, so I guess extended sister-in-law, she's
Uh,
a forensic anthropologist. And I was like, that is so
wow.
and I was like, you're the
Yes.
first one I've ever met. And
Yeah.
so, and I mean, obviously, like I was like younger watching the show Bones and all that. Like I knew enough about
Of
anthropology to
course.
be like, I
Yeah.
know this is all not true, but it's still such a good show.
Yeah.
But it
Definitely.
was so much fun. And but it just
Yeah.
it I remember going for interviews like as like a young career person who's gonna like work their way through the corporate ladder. And they're like, so we have to and I always thought people would want my poli sci degree because I was like,
Yeah.
now I feel like that's, applicable. It's not. And but they're always like, tell me about anthropology. And I was like, I can tell you about Australopithecus. I was like, let's just talk
Yeah.
to you about old humans right now.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Let's
I
talk about
was like,
Denisovans, Homo floresiensis. Like, let's
um,
get into this. Yeah.
I loved it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I really just picked it up because I was like, I need another degree, and a lot of my credits are already because I've been taking those classes because it was
Uh,
cool. I was like, yeah, it's a major
yeah.
now. Yeah, it worked
That's
out.
awesome. I accidentally walked into the degree, just
That's
like everything, just about.
I'm just gonna get a shirt that says this is an accident. I don't know how it happened. That's
Yeah.
I didn't
maybe
realize.
before maybe before OSG regionals.
I know. And I'm like
Yeah.
hearing myself, I'm like, oh wow, I have really just like accidentally found my way through life and it's worked out. Thank God. It could have gone the other way
Yeah.
around.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on. Are there any final words you want to shout out, like your social media or anything?
I mean, my Instagram is currently poorly not used, and I'm gonna be actually get really better about that. I mean,
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
Christina _Arthur. I was really good about it back in the fight sports days, and then I was like, yeah, I'm good. So give that a follow. That would be awesome. I swear I'll post more content. If not, I'm working on some sponsorships, and they'll make me post content, so that'll hopefully get in there. But no, this has been awesome, man. I really appreciate you taking the time and letting me ramble about strong stuff. There's
Oh,
work.
well, likewise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.